Today we're going to be talking about attitudes. An attitude is defined within psychology as a response to a social stimulus. Attitudes are not the same thing as personality, although in popular usage the two often become confused. Personality is an inner trait of the individual, something that the person carries around from situation to situation. An attitude is a response that the individual makes to a very specific social stimulus. And so an attitude is definitely tied to something external to the individual. Personality traits are enduring. In other words, they are semi-permanent. You can change your personality through something like psychotherapy, but it's not easy, and most traits remain pretty much the same for most individuals throughout the life cycle. On the other hand, attitudes can change through various types of persuasion. Let's take a look at how attitudes and personality might have some kind of interaction. We start life with two basic background factors, our heredity and our early childhood environment. These two factors interact to create the individual's personality. Then that personality and the ever-changing environment interact to create specific attitudes. Let's take a look at the three components that we will find in every attitude. A cognitive component about beliefs, an affective component dealing with emotions, values, preferences, or priorities, and a behavioral component dealing with actions, what we actually do in a situation. Now, when I say that the cognitive component deals with beliefs, I'm talking specifically about how we think about the facts. Which facts do we accept as being true? The term belief, as it is used in attitudes, does not refer to values or morals that we associate with so-called religious beliefs. Religious doctrines and ethics would more apply to the affective component of attitudes because they deal with values, preferences, and priorities. Let's take a look at some examples of attitudes and their specific components. For example, suppose you hold the attitude that abortion is wrong. The cognitive component is that you recognize abortion as an act of killing. The fetus dies in the process. The affective component is that your values are that murder is wrong. You feel the emotion of sadness or anger when you think about abortion. Your behavior, because of the cognitive and affective component, is that you'll probably vote against abortion if given the chance. Or let's take a look at the Iraq War. Suppose you have an attitude that the Iraq War is something that the United States should continue in until it is won. Your cognitive component is probably that the war in Iraq is necessary to stop international terrorism. Your affective component, your preference and priority, is to protect the USA, and you see a connection between the war in Iraq and that priority. Your behavioral component would be to vote in such a way as to support the troops and support their continued efforts in Iraq. Leon Festinger's idea was that these different components are usually consistent, but they might conflict. And when they do conflict, the most important of the three components is behavior. In other words, if people are already doing something, they tend not to accept the idea that there are any facts inconsistent with that behavior. If you are a smoker, that is your behavior, and you will tend not to believe the idea that smoking is bad for your health. If you have any comment about this video or any other in the Headless Professor series, contact me, brink@usa.com.